Freddie Freeman has been an elite fantasy baseball first baseman for the last 10 years. Will he be the number one first baseman for the 2023 fantasy baseball season, though? We will answer that question and more on today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball Podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Sports Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Dominic Martino, here as always with my brother, my co-host, Matthew Ane.
Yo.
You can find us on all social media platforms and podcasting apps. Just search for Locked On Fantasy Baseball, and we'll be there. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, especially on YouTube, because we love to talk fantasy baseball with you. So, on today's episode, Matt and I are talking about First Baseman Rankings. The rankings episodes are finally here, and we're excited to start them. So, just want to let you guys know off of the top, Matt and I's rankings are based off of 5x5 head-to-head categories leagues. They also work for Roto. We will try and give you a little bit of a points twist with some of these guys. I mean, it's a little difficult to do with points leagues because they vary very widely. Also, if you guys want to follow along with Matt and I's rankings, you can go to our website, which is in our link tree. Click that, and Matt and I's rankings will be updated for this episode. Also, Matt and I are going to be using Fantasy Pros ADP, and we're going to be going through the names that way. So if you want to follow along there as well, just go to Fantasy Pros and pull up their ADP, and you guys could follow along multiple ways today. So let's get right into it. Matt, this first four right here is, I think, a tier. So I think we just grouped them together, and it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Freddie Freeman, Pete Alonso, and Paul Goldschmidt. Matt, that's your top four as well, right?
It's somewhat in order like that, yeah. So, I mean, obviously we have Freddie and Vladdy who are like 1A, 1B, but I do have Freddie ahead of Vladdy for just one reason and one reason only. I'm not sure what Vladdy's is going to be doing this year. I mean, he had 32 home runs, but it was a little hard to get there. And he only had one season that really was outrageous in home runs, and that was in 2021. I just want to make sure that he could do it again for that 30-35 season, 40 season, which we all are praying that he can do. Other than that, I think that Freddie Freeman just had that first year, jitters being on the new team. And now that he's in year two, I think the only thing that was missing out of his game was power. And I think that's going to come back next year. Now, as to him getting back to that 35 range, probably not, but he has elite batting average. And with the Dodgers lineup around him, it's going to be elite counting stats all around. So hence why he's going to be my 1A, which is like, a hair off of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I just feel like there's going to be way more opportunity for for Freddie to have, well over 100 runs and ribbies on top of having, I would say 27 to 30 home runs, if not more, if the ball flies in the right direction. And he could hit the ball in anywhere on the park. So I think I foresee his batting average coming up with the shift now being removed. So I'm really in on Freddie Freeman. That's why I think he's my 1A.
Yeah, Matt, we're pretty much in sync here. I'm not going to add too much of a deep analysis here. Freddie Freeman is my number one first baseman. I have Vlad number 2 as well. I have Pete Alonso 3 and Goldie 4. So I'm in exact sync with ADP here. My thing is Freddie and Goldie are going to have a higher batting average. They also chip in steals. But I think Vlad and Pete Alonso are going to have more power, more RBIs probably. Freddie's the number one because I think he gets close to them in RBIs, but I'm going to say Vlad and Alonso might have a little bit more RBIs than them this year, especially since Alonso led the league in RBIs last year, or he came in second, to Aaron Judge. I had the Mets gear on today. I was in a Mets state of mind. But also, so far, Vladdy and Alonso are killing it in spring training. I know Vladdy's got 2 bombs, a bunch of RBIs, and Alonso is right there behind him. So these 4 make up that top tier of first baseman. And if you have any of those 4, you're doing great. So let's move into the second tier. I think the second tier is almost another group of four. And following Fantasy Pros ADP, that's Matt Olson, Jose Abreu, Vinnie P, the Italian Breakfast, and Nathaniel Lowe. So the thing here is, these guys are a little bit more. We might do a little bit more of a deep dive here. If you guys been listening to this podcast at all, you know that Matt and I love Vinnie P. We both have him tagged as our breakout at the first base position. So I have Jose Abreu 5, Vinnie P 6, Matt Olson 7, and Nate Lowe at 8. So Vinnie P, the thing with him is he's already got a bomb in spring training. He's already got himself a couple of hits, had a big first game. I think he's going to be hitting fourth in that Royals lineup. There's a lot of guys to drive in at the top of the lineup with Bobby Witt Jr., MJ Melendez. I think he's going to have a monster year. Last year, real quick, I'll give you a little recap on what he did. He played 72 games, 25 runs, 10 bombs, 26 RBIs. He walked more than he struck out. He hit 295, and Vinnie P, had a lot of power in the minors in 2021. 24 bombs, hit 300, 18 bombs in 2022, 73 games, hit 277. That's why I have him pegged as my breakout. I'm not going to go too much into these other guys. Abreu, Matt Olson, we kind of know what they are. Nate Lowe, though, real quick, just had a breakout year last year, and he's somebody that I am high on as well in that Texas lineup.
No, I mean, I think we should go over just for the people, just for anybody that's new to fantasy baseball. Let's talk about these guys. So I want to start off with Matt Olson, since he's the highest in ADP out of all the first basemen we just named. And we'll kind of go down the list just a little bit. So he's 39th in ADP overall, and the 5th first baseman off the board. I think that Matt Olson has a chance for bounce back. He's one of my bounce back players. I think he was a product of, new city and, new everything. So he kind of needed to find his way back. So I kind of did a deep dive on him too, and kind of really looked into what kind of went down last year. And it's crazy though. So Matt Olson's exit velocity wasn't down. His barrel rate wasn't down. None of the stuff that matters for a hitter wasn't down, right? What I did see was he was chasing a lot, and his chase rate went up. So that means he's chasing balls outside of the zone and trying to swing on that. And we don't go too deep into these kind of stats, but I want to just kind of bring it home as to why I think so, right? And I think that Matt Olson was kind of in a slump and was kind of trying to figure it out, probably a little frustrated with moving and life itself, and probably dealing with an angry wife. It's just a culmination of just life itself taking a toll on the man. So he was trying to get in rhythm, and I think he was chasing more stuff than he normally would, because Matt Olson, has a pretty decent career batting average. In 2021, he hit a 271, and 2019 he hit 267. So I think that's kind of more of his range between that, within 10 right there. And I think he's going to return to it this year and not have such a terrible year at literally 240. But it's crazy though, because he still had a decent season. He had 103 ribbies. He had 34 home runs. He had 86 runs in total. He had 616 at bats. So I think the batting average is going to come up. And if anything, we're going to start seeing more ribbies, because that team in Atlanta is just absolutely stacked. So I'm drafting with confidence. He is not my number 5 though. He is my number 7. So I have, way mine goes for this tier is Jose Abreu, Vinnie P, Matt Olson, CJ Cron. Actually, no, this is outdated. I apologize.
Okay.
That is not mine. Sorry. Apple does not like playing nice between my devices these days.
Guys, we've been making constant updates on our rankings here. Right. So we wanted to be ready for this episode. So that's why Matt's got to pull up the current ranking. So to make sure we're giving you guys the right information here.
Right. I apologize. So it actually goes Jose Abreu, Vinnie P, Matt Olson, Nate Lowe, and Nathaniel Lowe.
There we go.
That's just how I'm rolling this year. I think that, that's a really good way to line it up. And, that's why I think Matt Olson is, going to be fine in the draft. I just wouldn't draft him over the other 2 that I named.
Yeah, I'm just going to give my 2 cents on Matt Olson, since we stopped over here to talk about him. I think he's great. I think he's going to be elite in definitely home runs, definitely going to be elite in RBIs. He doesn't really steal bags. And I will say this, he did have a great year last year, but he played every single game last year. He played all 162 games. So I don't know if, necessarily the runs are going to be as high. The batting average, he's a career 250 guy, so I think he'll be around the 250 batting average. But other than that, Matt Olson is a great first baseman. My thing is I'm not really targeting him this year. I target Christian Walker, who you can get a little bit later, and I think you're going to get similar production with Christian Walker. The guy out of this group that I really want to deep dive on is definitely, I'm going to call him the artist formerly known as Nathaniel Lowe. But before I do that, I just want to talk about one of our sponsors here. If you're like me, you have a full-time job, you like to hit the gym sometimes, but you need a quick snack that isn't high on calories, you got to try Built Bar. Built Bar is got these bars that taste absolutely delicious, and they maintain amazing macros. What's even better is that they're healthy for you. Built Bars only have 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein. They also come in unbelievable flavors like cookies and cream, double chocolate, coconut puffs, and churro. And now guess what, guys? We don't even need to wait around to get a box anymore, because for years we've been talking about ordering your Built Bars only at Built.com. But thankfully for all of us, Built Bar has expanded, and you can go over to your local Walmart or Sam's Club and get you a bunch of boxes of Built Bar and, take them to the gym with you and just enjoy, the absolute deliciousness of a Built Bar. But with that being said, guys, I want to talk about some Nate Lowe here. Guy had an absolute, I got to call him, I know he wants to be called Nathaniel, so I'm sorry. So it's Nathaniel Lowe now. Guys, once again, we're going to call him the artist formerly known as Nate, Nathaniel Lowe. Now, that Texas Rangers team is only getting better, and let's just talk about what Nate Lowe did last year. Nathaniel Lowe did last year as a 26-year-old. Still got to get used to that. 74 runs, 27 bombs, 76 RBIs. He chipped in 2 steals, and he hit .302. Just had a monster year for Mr. Nathaniel Lowe. I have him, I think I said, as my number 8 first baseman, and he's just a sneaky guy that you can get, at around pick 100 if you missed out on some of those top first basemen. And I think he has another great year in him. I think he's very good.
Yeah. Nathaniel Lowe is just somebody that's been, improving every year. I truly do like him a lot. It's crazy too, because last year you were able to pretty much scoop him off waivers for free 99. And if anybody that watched last year, what is my number one saying about waiver wire, Dom?
Oh, if you get a batting average off the waiver wire, you can't beat that.
Exactly. So he was one of those guys that's like, wow, this batting average reduction was absolutely incredible, because he hit a .302 last year. And he had 27 home runs, and this is a waiver wire dude with 74 runs and 76 ribbies. He had a really solid season. He stayed healthy all year. He had 593 at bats. So he's solid as hell. And the Rangers got better this year. They're bringing on more. They're trying to win and actually ramp up what this franchise is doing. So, there's that winning mentality. And I think Nathaniel Lowe really does have the upside. He's only been up since 2019 as well. And I think that he's learned a lot in those couple of years. And I think he's ready to really just be a consistent fantasy option for the next couple of years. And, I'm not going to say the guy's going to be absolutely elite, but I think he's going to be a top 10 baseman just moving forward. Wherever that falls is going to probably fluctuate up and down for now. Let's see what happens. He's going to be very consistent. But I do want to talk about Jose Abreu. Abreu is somebody that I'm really interested this year, because one, he's old. He's one of those guys hey, is he one of the guys that I really want to get stuck when the other shoe drops, right? Because he's 36 years old, and
he's getting up there.
He's definitely getting up there, and it's am I going to be stuck holding the bag? But the thing is, though, it's not like he's losing power and things like this. And I'm going to use a little bit of advanced stats, and I'm at this point, I feel like with these kind of guys, when I did my deep looks on Paul Goldschmidt, another guy that's in his late mid 30s, and Abreu, you want to look, hey, is the bat speed going down? How's the exit velocity? Are they making good contact still? And one thing about Abreu is he really is still. In 2022, it was his lowest max exit velocity, which means how hard he's hitting it out of the park. But it really wasn't by much. It was by 2 miles per hour. Last year, he hit 115. The year before that, 114. This year, he hit 113. That was his max exit. And it's funny, though, his average exit velocity is 92.2, which is higher than 2021. So, what that's telling me is it's indicating that he hasn't lost anything. If anything, he's becoming more consistent in his exit velocity, which is telling you my guy's going to be just as good. And now that he's on Houston Astros, I think it's a plus because, as much as I like the White Sox and the young talent, they haven't hit a groove yet. And the guys can't stay healthy to give him that boost in the counting stats like runs and ribbies. Whereas now Abreu always had home runs. He's now going to have that in a lineup with guys that get on base like crazy, like Jordan, Tucker, Pena, Altuve. Like he's in a company of great talent around him, and I think that he's going to be very valuable. That's why he's my number 5. The only thing I'm not sure what we're going to see from him is he going to hit like 30 home runs? Because last year in 600 at bats, he had 15, which 15. is on the low side. But I mean, I think it was just a matter of the White Sox are kind of done. He's kind of done. So maybe he'll be re-inspired because, hey, it's the end of my career. I want to win a championship. Let me pull it all there out on the line and see what I can get done. Because I mean, Houston is competing to go for another World Series, and I'm sure he wants to get his ring before he ends his career. So that's why I think Jose Abreu is worth the number 5 outfielder for me, and his ADP for everybody. Yeah, for first baseman is 6, which is actually a great value for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love Jose Abreu. I just will chime in this. I don't know if he's going to get back to like 30 plus home runs, but if he would have played all of his games in Houston last year, he would have had 22 home runs. Those Crawford boxes in Houston, that short porch makes it a little bit better for Jose Abreu. He's going to be a plus batting average. He's led the league in RBIs before. He's had over 100 RBIs in 6 seasons. So I think he's a lock for, at least close to 100 RBIs. The runs, he's getting a little older. If he gets you 80, you take it and be happy. He could wind up being plus in at least 3, maybe 3.5 out of the 5 major categories. So Jose Abreu is definitely a great pick. I think Matt and I, are having the same trouble as who do we take there in that range? Is it Jose Abreu? Is it Vinnie P? Last time I did a draft, I took Vinnie P there, but there's times where I wanted to take Jose Abreu, and I have taken Jose Abreu as well. So I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. But let's get into that next tier of first baseman, right? Here in this tier of first baseman is where it gets a little bit, okay, now who do you personally like? Because none of these guys are truly studs, coming into this year, but I guarantee there'll be a few guys from this, area that do take that next step. So I'm going to go from 9 to 15 here, guys. I know it's going to be a couple of names, but Matt and I will break, most of them down, and we'll tell you what we think about them. So once again, we're using Fantasy Pros ADP here. It's Rhys Hoskins at 9, Christian Walker at 10, CJ Cron at 11, Anthony Rizzo at 12, Andrew Vaughn at 13, Jose Miranda at 14, and then Ryan Mountcastle at 15. The first guy that I actually want to start off here with, let me give you my 9 to 15 first, and then I'll tell you who I want to start off with. So my 9 to 15 is Anthony Rizzo, CJ Cron, Christian Walker, Jose Miranda, Andrew Vaughn, Ty France, and then I got Miguel Vargas at 15. My guy that I want to talk about real quick is Christian Walker. Now, Christian Walker kind of came out of nowhere last year to have a monster second half and just, take the league by storm. And he put up some very, very solid numbers. So last year, Christian Walker played 160 games. He had 84 runs, 36 bombs, 94 RBIs, chipped in 2 steals, and he had 242. So now I go back to that argument of, why take Matt Olson as high as he's going when you could take Christian Walker quite a few picks later. So Christian Walker is currently coming off the board at pick 117. And Matt Olson is coming off the board at pick 40. So you could save yourself, 60 picks and take Christian Walker later and get pretty much their stats are super identical from last year. Hey, now can Matt Olson, take a little bit of a step forward and be a little bit better than last year? Of course he can. But so can Christian Walker. Christian Walker on that good Arizona Diamondbacks team going to be sneaky good, this year. I just think the value is there for Christian Walker. That's my point.
No, I agree. I mean, like Christian Walker definitely has a great, we call it great value at being so late in the draft. The only thing that kills you is his batting average. But if you do it right, where like you're picking up more elite talent at other positions, then you can kind of like subsidize the batting average for the power and for the ribbies that he's going to produce. I think Christian Walker's a solid talent. But, that's really all I got on Christian Walker. I want to talk about somebody else here, and that's Mr. Rhys Hoskins.
Boo.
Yeah, I mean, so like for real baseball purposes, right? Like I'm not like a big fan of him because the guy can't play first base for the life of him. But the reason why I want to talk about him is he's in the same category as pretty much um, as Christian, and being at the fact that he hits a lot of home runs, they hit about the same average, and the only thing I say gives Rhys Hoskins a leg up is the fact that he's on a better team, right? So like
Yeah.
if you talk about the Phillies, right? You can roll off the names, right? So before even Harper comes back after All-Star break, you have Trey Turner, Schwarber, Castellanos, JT Realmuto. You have Bryson Stott. God, I'm definitely forgetting a name here.
I think you got all the big ones. There, Brandon Marsh too. I like
Yeah,
Brandon
Marsh. Like those are all guys I trust to hit, and he's going to be hitting with those guys. My only problem is he's not the most clutch. He's either hitting for the fences or whatnot, and he's a little streaky, but he gets the job done. And he's one of those guys that I'm kind of like, okay, if I really missed out and like I did something wrong, but like I kind of still have Rhys on the board, I'm probably just going to scoop Rhys. Now, my only downside isn't for drafting Rhys, and the real reason I want to talk about him outside of being in the same kind of category is I'm not sure if Rhys Hoskins stays on the team the whole season. He's one of those people where this is the last year of control for the Phillies before he wants to go get paid. And I know the guy's going to want a bag of money. And I'm not sure if they just move him and either get prospects and bring in somebody else and trade for a different first baseman, somebody that either costs less or somebody that actually is more of a long-term outlook. So that's just where I'm at for him. And so, like, say for instance, like I think the best trading partner for the Phillies is the Miami Marlins because they have so much pitching depth, whether that's prospects or actual pitchers. So that's where it could be. And then I don't think his fantasy value is going to be all that great. So before I hand this off to Dom and we start talking about everybody else, we're just going to take a break here real quick. And, we'll talk to you about more after this. All right. And we're back. Hey, Dom. So like, I know I rambled off about Rhys Hoskins. Can you finish up and take up on it somebody else for me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give my 2 cents on Rhys Hoskins. I actually have Rhys Hoskins as my bust at first base. So I do just want to give my 2 cents on him. The thing is I don't think he's bad for fantasy. I think he's bad as the 9th first baseman and pick 104. You could wait, 3 first basemen, get Anthony Rizzo at pick 127. I love Vaughn and Miranda as, breakouts this year. Even Ryan Mountcastle, I think, has a decent year, and I just wouldn't reach that high to get Rhys Hoskins. So with that being said, though, in this tier, let's talk about the the local guy, the New York guy. Let's talk about Rizzo. And the thing with Anthony Rizzo is that left-handed batters are going to benefit a lot from not being shifted on. And Anthony Rizzo's career kind of started to tail off once they started shifting on him, like the way they did, like at a high rate. So Anthony Rizzo before the last 3 years hit 293, 283, 273, 292, just and on and on and on. He was always a very, very, very good hitter. Then as the shift started to and the data started to get more, the team started to use the data more and shift properly. Okay, Rizzo's going to hit the ball here 75% of the time, then 15% of the time, and then 10. You don't even need to put a guy in a certain spot where he's going to hit the ball less than 5% of the time, and that's what they did to Rizzo. Do I think he gets back to 290? No, but can Rizzo realistically get back to 260, 265 with 30 bombs? And if he plays 150 games in that Yankees lineup, get you 80 runs and maybe even 100 RBIs, and he also chips in steals. So, Rizzo could chip you in 5 steals, which is going to help you in that category. I have Rizzo as my 9th first baseman, and I would take him all day over a lot of these other guys with the, thought of him bouncing back to somewhat of he used to be.
Yeah, I mean, Rizzo's a solid contributor, and if he probably didn't get hurt last year, I feel like he probably would have had even more home runs and even more ribbies. Like he only had 465 at bats last year, so like that's kind of like the thing. Like to be honest, he literally was on pace to be Joey Gallo last year in a nutshell. So I think that with the shift, that's going to give him a boost. Like you said, I don't know. Like, what do you think? Like 250 to 260 range for a batting average?
260, 265 maybe.
I missed that part. That's my bad.
No, you're good. You're good.
So like, I think he could be very valuable. I have Rizzo as what my 12th
We're not
first
far off.
base. It's not far. I just like I have like again like Nathaniel Lowe and like right above him is Christian Walker and CJ
Yeah,
Crone.
love Christian Walker.
Yeah, and Crone is another one that's like, even though he had that bad second half and really fell off a cliff, he still had good counting stats, and he's in Colorado. And you pray that Chris Bryant plays a full season and doesn't deal with the back issues.
Hey, Chris Bryant homer today, man. That's my dog.
Right. And if you guys noticed, we're drafting Chris Bryant everywhere. So like
All day.
it's one of those things where like I'm like, okay, I think there's a lot of upside if you do draft Crone because he's going to have Chris Bryant in his ear. There's going to be a lot of not just like pressure, but like, how do I put this? Like incentive to hit better and to not fall off. Because after a certain while, when you're losing so many games, it gets to you mentally, and Colorado sucks. So it's just one of those things where I think you can have a better second half. But let's move on here to who's the next guy in line here that we haven't talked about.
Real quick, Matt. I have
Sure.
a quick stat on CJ Crone I want to throw out before we move on. So it's not only his first half or second half. You know what the thing is with CJ Crone? It's his home away splits. At home, CJ Crone hit 22 bombs last year, hit 305, 75 RBIs, and 53 runs. And that was in 73 games. So he played more games away. We played 77 games away. 26 runs, 7 bombs, 27 RBIs, and he had 214. So the thing with CJ Crone is you can really only play him when he's at Coors, and that's what really stinks about CJ Crone. I have him ranked a little bit lower as my 10th first baseman. I actually might switch him and Christian Walker the more I look at it. So as I had CJ Crone as my my breakout last year, I'm kind of fading him a little bit more this year. But Matt, who did you want to move on to?
So I wanted to move on to your boy, Andrew Vaughn, and I know that you like him.
Andrew Vaughn.
And I kind of would like you to talk about him since, me and you actually have a disparity on him. So I'd like you to tell him why you're so high, and then I could go about why I'm so low.
Of course. So I have Andrew Vaughn currently ranked as my number 13 first baseman. And here's the thing. Andrew Vaughn is naturally a first baseman, and he's never had the opportunity to play first base because of Jose Abreu. Jose Abreu's gone. Vaughn moves back into his natural position of first base, and I think this is the year for Vaughn that he breaks out. Last year, as a 24-year-old, played 134 games, 510 at bats, 60 runs, 17 RBIs, 17 bombs, 76 RBIs, and he had 271. See, the thing with Vaughn is he was always a very highly touted prospect. He's never really spent too much time in the minors because the White Sox just pushed him through. So maybe it takes a few years for him to get to where we all projected him to be. And this is his third year. We've seen a lot of guys break out in their third years, like Vladdy and a bunch of other dudes. I just think him playing in his natural position after a very strong second year last year in 2022 for Andrew Vaughn. I think that in 2023, if I had to give you an estimate of what I think his stats could be, depending on where he hits in the lineup, I think he'll be towards the top. I think he can give you 80 runs, 22 to 25 bombs, maybe 80 RBIs, and he could hit 270, 280. And I think it's a very, very good sleeper pick at first base to snag you an Andrew Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you with all that. The only thing that I kind of feel like is we kind of know his story, right?
Not at 24 years old.
I mean, I'm looking at his profile from like that one and a quarter season in the minors. He really doesn't have that kind of power. I think that like 15 to 17 range is kind of all we see. I don't really see him breaking.
He only played 55 games in the minors though.
Yeah. And even so though, even if in the bigs though, he had similar at bats. I mean, 100 off, and he only was able to crank out 2 more home runs with 100 more at bats in a full season. Like in 2021, he had 417 at bats, cranked out 15. In 2022, he had 510 at bats. And
you gotta get that grown man body going, bro.
Yeah, but he only had 17 home runs, and the grown man body, I believe, is here. He's 6 foot and 200.
6 foot 215.
It's a man body already. So
yeah, of course.
I just don't see him getting that power like you do. In all honesty, I don't foresee him breaking 20. I think this is kind of what he is. He's just a high batting average guy with that 80 ribby category, 80 ribbies and runs, and maybe he might be able to crank into almost the 90s because if the White Sox just I don't know, stay healthy. Cough, cough, Eloy and
and
Roberts.
Luis Robert.
Maybe that pushes him up a little bit. He's going to be a very consistent player. He's going to be one of those guys that you're going to be glad you drafted, especially to make up for batting average. Be a nice like UT guy. He's not somebody I would feel comfortable with starting as my first baseman, I think, ever, unless somehow he steps up and just like starts rocking it out of the park and starts pulling the ball a lot more. But I just don't see Andrew Vaughn as that kind of profile because he's too good at the plate for him to start using the launch angle to get that ball over the fence. He's just too good he's a really good real baseball player, not a fantasy asset for me.
Yeah, so, I hear you. I just think 134 games last year, 510 at-bats. You give the kid 20 more games, close to another 175 at-bats. Like I said, 22 to 25 bombs isn't out of the question. More of that White Sox lineup, how good is it going to be? Where is he going to hit in that lineup? But I think the chance of a breakout is there for a guy that's only going to be 25 years old next year. But let's move on. Let's grab somebody else. Matt, did you have anybody else in mind that you specifically wanted to speak about, brother?
Yeah, actually. You know who I'm going to talk about. I'm staring the name down right now.
Let me see if I can guess. I mean, is it Vargas?
Yeah.
Is it Miguel Vargas? All right, so let's do a little Miguel Vargas rant.
Of course, Mr. Miguel Vargas. You know what's funny is he's one of my favorite prospects. You guys have probably heard me talk about him, kind of almost like unrelentlessly at this point. He's one of my
even talked me into him, Matt.
Exactly. I mean, he's one of those players that's kind of like I feel and I'll say this, I'll make the small argument about that just got dodgered last year. Did not get a full opportunity to play, but when he did, he was absolutely incredible. And the profile was absolutely ridiculous, right? So, like in the minors in 2022, he had 438 at bats. He had 100 runs, 32 doubles, 4 triples, 17 home runs, 82 ribbies, 16 stolen bases, and batted a 304. The year before that, he had 23 home runs, and the kid's got all the power in the world, and he could steal bases. He's not going to be this like 30-20 guy, 40-20 guy. I think he's going to be more like a chip in where he might be able to get to in a couple years, like 25 to 30 home runs. I think he might be able to be like a 10, 12 to 15 steal guy and bat for average. So he's really, really interesting. And the upside's there because when he came up, he was hitting ridiculous. Like the power was there. The exit velocity was there. And he kind of was just mind blowing. And he was so quick. So I just think that we're in for a real surprise with Mr. Vargas. And, God, if he just even hits a little bit this year, you're going to get him as a nice value. And he's going cheap as hell because what his ADP is.
Oh, it's crazy low.
Yeah, like it's almost forgotten.
29th first baseman, pick 260.
So like that's free 99. Like, I mean, if you're not playing in a dynasty league where like young names like him are really valued and it's a redraft or just a keeper league where like you don't have you don't have minor league spots, like he's your last pick of the draft in my opinion, and you scoop him up and you're just like, yo, thank God I got this and it's going to pay off. But that's why I think Miguel Vargas is really good for
Matt,
this year.
Where do you have him ranked at first base?
So I've been playing with my rankings a lot, and he was at one point he was at my number 12, but I had to move him down because I started really doing deeper dives, and I have him at number 14 now. So I moved him down about like 4 spots just based off of the fact that I was like, man, I'm kind of drafting him at like almost his ceiling of what he can do this year, depending on when he gets the call up and how long it takes him to really adjust. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to draft a guy in my top 10 first baseman or have just a starting first baseman, I feel that I need to have somebody more consistent, and he's more of that UT guy at the end of the draft for me.
Yeah, Matt, we're perfect synced. I have Miguel Vargas ranked as my number 15th first baseman. The thing is that the Dodgers want to play Vargas at second base, and he was taking reps there. But the thing was, he messed up his pinky. I believe he fractured it, or
he did fracture. It was like a slight fracture.
It was a slight fracture in that pinky. So the update is from 22 hours ago that I'm seeing here. The manager Dave Roberts came out and said that Vargas's grip strength is back to normal. That was the biggest test for him, and that they assume that he's going to be doing more stuff in the batting cages. But they don't know exactly when he's going to get back out into one of these spring training games and really start putting those reps in. So I would keep an eye on Vargas and see how that goes. Maybe this deters the plan of him starting at second base, but also Gavin Lux was carted off of the field today with a bad injury. I believe was sliding into second base. So we do wish Gavin Lux the best. So I don't know if they're going to want to speed Vargas up now with that injury and have him out there. We'll see how this goes. We'll keep you updated.
You know what?
But as long as go ahead,
I'm
brother.
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
You're good. No, go ahead.
The only thing I could say is, if anything, usually a fracture. I don't know about like a pinky or how severe the fracture is. Usually takes anywhere from like 4 to 6 weeks to heal. That's almost spring training. But if he's doing live BPs and things like that, I guarantee for 2 reasons he's not going to get called up till 2 weeks into the season. 1, for control.
I could see that.
And 2, to just give him that little extra warm-up time, because say it is 4 weeks, he's going to need at least 2 to 3 weeks to just warm up before coming up. So he'll probably get 2 weeks in the minors and then get that call up, and it'll be a win-win for him, for the Dodgers, because they love to play that control game.
Yeah, Vargas just has all the upside. Matt Rizzo, he's been a 300 hitter in all 4 of his minor league seasons. He's got a lot of reps down there. I think he has huge breakout potential. So if you want to take Vargas with one of the last picks of your draft, and also know that he will get second base eligibility at some time this year, it's a big win-win-win. But before we wrap up, guys, I'm just going to throw a couple of names out here that we didn't really get to cover this episode that I'm personally high on coming into, this year at first base. I have Joey Meneses as my number 17 first baseman. He had a big breakout year as an older man for the Nationals last year, hit over 300. He's got a little pop in the bat. He's got a little bit of speed. I think DJ LeMahieu has a chance to bounce back after, a litany of injuries last year, including a foot issue that kept him out towards the end of the year. He's another guy that could benefit from the shift going away. He knows how to spray the ball over the field. He knows how to put the ball where the hitters aren't. So I think DJ could have a 300 batting average and a lot of runs hitting at top of that Yankees lineup. Who else do I have here that I think would be great to talk about? Jake Cronenworth, I'm not super high on, but that Padres lineup is going to be very good depending on where he hits. Jake Cronenworth is another target. Matt, anybody else that you wanted to speak upon here at first base before we head out?
Just one last guy, and that's Tristan Casas. I think that everybody should just keep an eye out on him. Just look at his minor league stats and just see how he's playing. In the minors, he looks so good. And, if he can break camp, which I think he just might because Boston's really bad, I think that he could possibly just make the team and then possibly have a serious impact this year for fantasy. I don't know to what level, but he's free 99, so it's not a bad shot in the dark and a nice dart throw.
Yeah, Casas is coming off the board, pick 23, 23rd first baseman, pick 208.
Yeah. Also, too, one last thing before we move on and, wrap this thing up. I'm going to update our rankings probably Friday, so look out for that. I want to be able to get through, the next 2 episodes where we go over, what do we cover tomorrow? Second base?
I was thinking let's go to catcher. This was a pretty interesting episode. Let's try and get the stinky positions in the middle of some good ones.
So we update. I want to be able, whatever we go over this week, I want to be able to give you guys all final updated one by the end of the week. So I guess catcher and then whatever on Thursday, and
maybe
then
second base.
Probably second base. So I'll update those 3, and then you'll see our rankings. And then as we go further, we're going to see more and more changes as obviously how guys perform, but at least for this, as we're going through the positional rankings, I want to make sure you're getting up to date versus me changing it every single day. And then you're just like, oh, I got to go back every single day, which, I mean, you could go to our website every day. I'll appreciate it, but I don't think you want to.
Well, guys, that's all for today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment, rate, and review. As Matt also just mentioned, check out our website. You can find our current rankings there, a little bit about us. You have access to all the episodes. And also, thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. With that being said, you need to make your second listen each and every day. Locked on MLB Prospects, which is hosted by our colleague, Lindsey Crosby. Lindsey Crosby was on our top 10 fantasy prospects. Yeah, I got a little tongue-tied there. I was like, wait, what episode was it again? It's our top 10 prospects for this upcoming fantasy baseball season. You should go check that one out if you want to, get our take with Lindsey's combined for prospects for this upcoming season. But also, Lindsey just does a great job of breaking everything down in a very, very detailed way that you can understand. So please be sure to check out his podcast, which is Locked on MLB Prospects. But guys, we're coming back, like I said, tomorrow with catcher rankings. And until then,
peace.